All right, it is now 12:02, and we will go ahead and begin our session for today. Welcome to the Fifth Third Bank Owning It Home Ownership Seminar. My name is Roy Sutton, and I'm Senior Vice President here at Fifth Third Bank, and I lead our community and economic development efforts across the state of Ohio with a great team that I have here on the call: Mario Rutherford Long, Sheldon Johnson, and Dana Capers, who are doing some tremendous work all across the communities where they are serving. And you'll get a chance to hear from all of our team members here today. You're absolutely in the right place on this beautiful Saturday. This is Father's Day weekend, this is Juneteenth weekend, and this is also the weekend where we're going to spend some time talking about this idea of home ownership. So whether you're in an apartment and you got noisy neighbors next to you who play the type of music that you don't particularly care for, or you've got neighbors who are arguing on the other side of a shared wall at 3 a.m. in the morning when you've got an early shift the next day, perhaps this might be the opportunity for you to make a change in what you are dealing with. Or maybe you've got a maintenance guy that you've been calling for the last 3 weeks and can't get them to come out and make the repair. You're in the right place today to have a conversation about home ownership. Your journey today is about three things. Financial independence through ownership. Number two, it's about building wealth and equity. And it's about creating a financial legacy by home ownership. So I would encourage you today in our session to get a pen or pencil, piece of paper, take plenty of notes. We're going to walk this very slow. We're going to spend time, give you an opportunity to ask questions because there's a lot of information that's going to be covered, but we brought the best and the brightest in the industry. We've assembled them here on this Saturday to talk to you about home ownership, but we also want to listen to you as you have questions about this whole journey that we are hopefully beginning to take. Whether your journey is going to be short or long, we're willing to work with you. So I know that some of you have heard that it's a hard time it's very difficult to find a home as you think about rising interest rates and the number of homes that are out there. Those are things that we want to help you to overcome and work through any questions that you may have and to get you on this journey toward home ownership like you've never been before. So these folks that are going to be on this call today, they're going to walk you through every single one of the steps to get you started. Benjamin Franklin once said that 90% of success is showing up, and you showed up today. Now, let's take some time to walk through this so that you can get a chance to show out as you are showing up in this space as we have this candid and helpful and beneficial conversation about making you the next homeowner. We've got a lot of things we're going to cover. Maria, we're going to let you walk on through the agenda today, help them to understand what we're going to cover so that they're in great shape. And then we've got some other presenters that will talk about what is going to occur in our session today. Thank you for your time, for joining us. And thank you, Fit 13, and all of our community partners for your active engagement and the part you played to make this happen today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Royce. We know it's a great weekend filled with all kinds of activities, and that we're so grateful that you could join us today because we know you're busy. Welcome, welcome, welcome again, everyone. Could we have the next slide, please? We are going to focus on home ownership at this time. June is National Home Ownership Month, and we at Fifth Third Bank believe that home ownership is one of the major ways that people can build wealth in this country. And that is why we're taking the time to create and present this workshop. Next slide, please. What we're going to share with you today is that you're going to hear from experts. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. Thank you. You're going to hear from experts all over the state of Ohio. They will be from the realtors, from the home buyer counseling, and from mortgage lenders, all about how to buy a home. Wherever you are in the process, whether you've already found your house or you just got started, you're building your credit, whatever the case may be, we want to help you be a stronger, more competent buyer. And so, in order to do that, we're going to share some key topics. Next slide, please. I want to share some key topics that'll prepare you. We're also going to talk to you about next steps. You'll have an opportunity to get names and contact numbers of the folks that are going to be presenting today who can talk with you one-on-one about it. We'll also assist you in moving to the next level wherever you are in your journey to home ownership. At this point, I'd like to introduce you to my colleagues who are going to give you a brief tutelage and a brief tutoring on how to experience this workshop the best way. Next slide, please. Take it away, Sheldon.
All right. Thank you so much, Maria. And thank you, everyone, for being here today. We're so excited that you were able to spend some time with us. And, you know, as Maria and Roy said, this is a really great opportunity for you to get some information wherever you are in the home buying journey. And we have experts from all around the state to celebrate National Homeownership Month with us. My name is Sheldon Johnson. I'm the Community Impact Manager in Central Ohio in the Columbus area. And we really want y'all to have some great experience today. So I'm just gonna give you a couple tips to make sure that that's able to happen. So we'd ask everyone to please mute your electronic device, whether you're on your phone or a tablet or a cell phone. This will eliminate background noises and disruptions for everyone that's on the call. Go to a quiet place so you can eliminate distractions and really pay attention to what's going on the screen. It's going to be a lot of great gems that are being dropped today. We want to make sure that you are able to get all that information and lead to you purchasing your dream home. Take great notes today. There's going to be a lot of information. If you're like me, sometimes it's hard to pay attention and take notes. So something else you can do is take a picture with your phone of the slides or take a screenshot to make sure that you have the information that's being presented. At the end, we're going to have an opportunity for you to ask questions, and you can also ask questions questions. We have all been where you are, and we had a lot of questions too. So just keep those things in mind as you go throughout the process, and then I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Danny Capers to share a couple more details with you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Saturday. My name is Dana Capers, and I'm the Community Economic Development Community Impact Manager for the Northern Ohio. So that's Toledo, Clinton, Akron, Canton. So between all of us on the call, we have the entire state of Ohio covered. I'm going to help move us along today as well and make sure that as we go forward, you know who's presenting. So the things first is we need you to tell all the people you know about this great opportunity. So for those of you who are on Facebook or you're just sitting there on the Zoom, reach out and tag someone, tell someone, because it's not too late to get them on the line so that they can get these great gems as well. Next, we want to take a couple moments to find out where's everybody from. You know, this is a statewide virtual call. So if you would just put in the chat for us, where are you dialing in from? Just give us your city. Just would love to know where are folks from. I am in the Cleveland area. Shout out to the CLE. We've got some Cincinnati. We've got Dayton. Cincinnati, Queen City trying to represent. Give us some more. Okay, we got Woodmere. We've got some more Cleveland. So thank you so much. Keep it coming. We want to know where you're from. Because once you are all homeowners, somebody's going to host a housewarming party, and we're all going to show up. So thank you for sharing that. So you can see we have representatives here from the entire state of Ohio. So that's awesome. So before we get started, a couple more things to note. Sheldon gave you some tips. I just want to tell you that, again, you can put in your questions in the chat. We will be monitoring the chat here as well as on Zoom, as well as on Facebook. So please put your information in the chat. And that way we'll answer them at the end. All right, shout out. I just have to say shout out to Toledo, but we will answer those things at the end, but we do encourage you to put those in there. Also, please note that at the end, we are going to share our contact information so that if you have questions that don't quite get answered or you need more information, there will be a way to reach out. And finally, we do want you to be engaged. So in the chat, put your questions. Also, you can send up some reactions. You can just make some comments, etc., because we want you to be engaged. This is not a one-way thing. And the more you're engaged, the more you have an opportunity to win. We are giving away 2 $25 gift cards at the end, and it's going to be really based on who has been engaged. So someone on Facebook, someone on Zoom. So no matter the platform, you have an opportunity to win. So now let's go ahead and get you started on your home ownership journey. I want to introduce my colleague, Mr. Dan Beckley, and he'll talk about the benefits of home ownership.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Dan Beckley, and I am the Community Reinvestment Act Field Manager for Ohio for Fifth Third Bank. I've got a team of loan officers located in all the major cities to help you get to the goal of homeownership. We have a motto on my team. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We will meet you where you're at and figure out the path. You know, we're not going to, we sometimes have to turn people down, but we don't turn them away. We show them how to become approved. And that's a different experience than a lot of places that you see. They have the obstacle of getting in to see a lender and just being told no, and given no reasons, given no path, no way to get to that goal. So we're focused there, and you're going to be able to see our contact information at the end. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the benefits of homeownership. If you could go to the next slide, please. So you heard Royce talk about generational wealth and building wealth through equity. Every time that you pay your landlord, you're building their wealth. You're paying off their property. You're giving them their profit. You're giving them their money. If you think about the costs of a home, they're paying the taxes. They are paying the insurance for their part. They are covering maintenance and things like that, but your rent includes all of that. So people do get a little bit nervous about taking on a property because they have to do the maintenance, but you're already paying for all that if the landlord is there. You don't have to rely on them as well. You can make sure that you can take care of your own business if you need to have something repaired or fixed. So every time you make a mortgage payment, though, you're paying your taxes, your insurance, and your loan, but you're also putting money into the equity of your home. You're paying down that balance. While some appreciate, or some assets depreciate, like cars and boats and other things, and the values go down over time, we have a very solid track record of appreciation for home ownership. There have been some dips that have happened in the past when there was recessions and things, but if you look at the overall growth from 50 years ago to today, it stays on a pretty steady path from here to here. You're going higher in your values. So it gives you an opportunity to use that equity to fix up the property, to pay for things that you need, to consolidate debt, to build that wealth. When you sell that home, you'll have that equity to put as a down payment for the next home. I've helped people in my past as a loan officer buy 8 different homes. And each time it was a more expensive, nicer house, and they had a smaller loan because they used their equity to put the down payment on that large house. A lot of people think that you have to be in a home for 30 years, and that's not a lifetime decision. You don't have to be there 30 years for the 30-year loan. If you need to sell the home after 7 years, you can do that, and you can use that equity to move to the next place. Go ahead and switch slides, please. So there's also some potential tax benefits. You can deduct mortgage interest in some cases. Property tax payments can be deductible. There's tax incentives for energy efficient home improvements. So if you're fixing your house and you're putting in new windows that are energy efficient and high energy efficiency furnace, entry doors, all those things could potentially create a credit against your tax burden. So that's something that's good there. Always want to say that I'm not a tax advisor and you should consult one. I'm a banker, so you need to find out what fits for you, but that is definitely a benefit. It's your castle. You can make your home what you want it to be. You're not stuck with the walls that the landlord chose with the colors. You're not stuck with the carpet. You can do your home the way that you want to do your home, which is a huge benefit as well to make you more comfortable and have your own place. Next slide, please. So another benefit we want to talk about is just joining the community. Being a homeowner, homeowners usually typically have more pride in their community. The more homeownership we have in a community, the less litter we're going to have, the more community activities. You're going to have neighbors and communities, and you'll have people to rely on. They're like an extension of your family if you're living in somewhere where it's stable and there's homeownership. A lot of people in apartments and rentals, they'll move once a year because the rents go up, and the way we can control that with a fixed rate mortgage is going to give you a better experience there, and it's going to make it more stable for your family and stable for the other folks that are in your community. Please go to the next slide. I would like to introduce my friend Tammy Edwards. She's a housing counselor at Working in Neighborhoods, and she's going to talk about credit and homeownership.
Thank you, Dan. Next slide, please. So as Dan said, I am a housing counselor here at Working in Neighborhoods. And so who we are and what we do, we help families and communities in the greater Cincinnati region achieve their housing goals. So that could be through home ownership, financial literacy, or community building. So next slide, please. So one thing to look at when you're preparing for home ownership is understanding credit. So what is credit? Credit is money you borrow and plan to repay. There is a charge for borrowing money. Examples would be interest and fees that are associated with credit. Credit also allows you to make a purchase without having to pay the entire price at one time. Next slide, please. So what are lenders and mortgage companies and creditors really looking at when they're considering you for credit? One explanation here is called the 4 C's of credit. So what does that really mean? It consists of capital, capacity, character, and collateral. So capital is actually the money that you have available when you are applying for credit. Also, capacity. The capacity would be the ability to pay. Do you work? Do you have a job? Are you self-employed? And character, that 4C, would consist of your credit history, your credit report. So basically, what lenders are looking for, they're looking to see, how do you pay your bills? Do you pay on time? What is that history? Are there any slow pays, no pay at all, things that may have gone into collection or have gone into charge-offs? Again, character, that credit report will give an indication on what lenders are looking for. And then the 4th C is collateral. So if you are extended that loan, then your property, your home would be the collateral that you would use to stabilize your credit. It would be there as collateral for the loan that the mortgage company would give you. Next slide, please. So things to consider when deciding to use credit. How much do I have to pay to borrow this money? Is this purchase a need or a want? Will the item last longer than the time it takes to pay off the item? So a good example would be that maybe you got that new Nintendo or game system and you purchased that on credit. Okay, now you may have taken out a long term to pay it off. Will you still be paying it off long after that game system becomes obsolete or get damaged. So you want to consider, again, will the item last longer than the time it takes to pay off the item? How will the payment affect my monthly spending plan? So when you get credit, again, you're borrowing money that you agree to pay later. But if it doesn't fit into your monthly spending plan, you may want to consider, do I want to add this extra credit payment into my monthly plan? When you make a purchase using credit, again, you commit to using future income to repay the loan. Credit can tempt you to spend more than you can repay, and that is considered debt. So whenever you are using credit, it is debt. Next slide, please. So I mentioned in one of the 4 C's character, the credit history, the credit report. So the credit report is made up of 3 major credit reporting agencies. It's Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. So what's included in that report is your payment history, the types of accounts, the amount of debt, public records, and inquiries. So types of accounts would be your installment loans, such as student loans, auto loans. Your revolving credit would be the credit cards. The amount of debt, how much do you owe on each of those type of accounts that you have? Your public records would include things like bankruptcies, things of that nature. And inquiries, how many inquiries have been reported on your credit report? That means how many times have you applied for credit, or someone has done a soft pull or a hard pull considering you for credit. So credit is used in a lot of different ways. It's used by lenders, insurance companies, employers, landlords, utility companies, and the list goes on. So again, that's part of that character of the 4 C's that people who are going to extend you credit want to know some things about you. So it is important to understand how your credit report is going to be used. How long do things remain on your credit report? Inquiries, 2 years. Public records, 7 to 10 years. Old accounts, 7 years from last activity. Now that last activity, I want to dive a little deeper there. Anytime an inquiry is open, if it's open, and sometimes that does happen where creditors, they sell or pass on your account, well, your 7 years could extend really longer than the 7 years you're counting from when you open that account. Again, it's the 7 years from the last activity. So each credit bureau will provide 1 free credit report annually, and you can go to www.annualcreditreport.com to receive your free credit report. It does not affect your credit score anyway because you are looking for it for your own educational benefit. It does not affect your credit score if you're working with a housing counselor because they are looking at it to go over educational purposes with you in learning more about credit. Next slide, please. So what makes up the credit score? Your payment is 35%. Your payment history is 35% of that score. The amount you owe is 30%. The length of your credit history is 15%. New credit counts for 10%. And the type of credit you use is also a 10%. So a credit score predicts how likely you are to pay back your loan on time. A scoring model uses information from all 3 credit bureaus to give you an average score. So when you do pull your credit report, you want to make sure again that you're getting the history from all three of the credit score models, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, because that average of all of those would be what is creating your credit score. Next slide, please. So now I would like to introduce my colleague, Morgan Shorts, who's going to talk to you about housing affordability and home ownership.
Thank you. Hey everyone, my name is Morgan Shorts. I am a housing counselor and educator with Cleveland Housing Network, or CHN Housing Partners, as we'd like to call it. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So we're headquartered here in Cleveland, Ohio. We are a nonprofit organization founded in 1981 by 6 Cleveland CDCs. Our focus is on the power of a permanent address. So we work to build more equitable communities, improve housing affordability, and preserve and expand the supply of affordable housing in our region and beyond. We do partner with sister nonprofits, government entities, and financial institutions such as Fifth Third Bank and other like-minded institutions that seek to improve housing stability. Next slide, please. So today I'm going to be talking about housing affordability. So deciding to purchase a home is one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make. It's one of the biggest purchases you'll ever make. And we want to know if you're ready. Before you start shopping, you want to take time to prepare by taking the following action steps. So access your spending, seeing where your money is going. So when we're seeing where your money is going, we will be creating a spending plan. So where has your money been going for the month? And then you want to determine how much you want to spend on a home. So how much house do you want to buy? How much do you want to pay monthly? If you can go back to the last slide, please. Then you want to check your credit. Then after that, you want to put a plan into place for correcting credit errors, saving for a down payment and or paying down debt. And then most importantly, you want to consider whether you're ready to be a homeowner. Next slide, please. So step 1, calculating your annual and monthly income. So you would calculate based on your frequency of how you get paid, whether that be weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, or monthly. You want to know the difference between your gross and net monthly income. So your gross income is what you earn before taxes and other deductions are taken out. And your net income is the amount you have to spend and what you're actually bringing back home. So step 2 would be to track your spending. You track your spending by printing out a copy of your back to the last slide, please. Your monthly billing statement or your monthly bank statement. We will go through and see where your money is going. Is it going to Netflix? Is it going to DoorDash? Is it going to bills? We will track where your money is going. And then at the end of the month, we'll spend time reviewing your expenses, determine what is a need versus a want. What could you not spend so much money on? And then that's how we would create a budget. So we would create a spending plan, and then we would create a budget to tell your money where to go. After creating a spending plan, we would include your potential homeownership costs. So what mortgage payment, including principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, can you afford? Last slide, please. Sorry. I'm not saying why it keeps going back. Well, we will calculate will your monthly utility bills increase? And do you have a maintenance and emergency savings plan for whatever may happen when you purchase a home? Next slide, please. So tips to help you determine what you can afford. So we try to do the 20-36 rule, which is make sure your monthly payment or your monthly mortgage payment, which would include your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, is in more than 28% of your monthly gross income. So that's your gross income, the income that you receive before taxes are taken out. And 36% of your total monthly debt. These are your debt to income ratios. So your principal depends upon the price of the home you select, in the amount of down payment. Your interest rates vary from lender to lender. Your credit score lowers your interest rates. Loans are structured so the amount of principal repaid starts out low and increases in subsequent years. Mortgage payments in the early years of the loan are applied more to interest than principal, and then the ratio gradually shifts as time goes by. Real estate or property taxes are assessed by local governments and used to fund public services such as schools, police forces, and fire departments. Taxes are calculated on a per year basis, but you can include them as part of your monthly mortgage repayments. So by improving your credit score, you can take some time. Last slide, the slide before, please. By improving your credit score, you can take some time, but don't let that discourage you. Your hard work will pay off in the end. By paying your bills on time payments are the most impactful on your credit score. That should be your main goal, is making sure that you can take care of your bills on time. And then paying down and maintaining low balances, ideally less than 30% of your total available credit, and making sure that you correct errors. There are many reasons to dispute inaccuracies on your credit report. This can lead to positive changes, and it is free to do. So make sure that you're viewing your credit report often. You want to look at it at the least once a month. And then also pay attention to the length of credit and the variety of credit on your report. Sometimes it is more damaging to close a credit line than to keep it open. So you want to make sure that when you're applying for credit, you're applying for credit that what you would use and what you can actually afford. Next slide, please. CHN Housing Partners has 2 group education series for clients who are looking to build their finances and learn more about home ownership. Our financial capability series is a workshop that covers a variety of topics related to financial wellness, such as goal setting, building savings, developing a spending plan and a balanced budget, credit basics and strategies for improving credit. And in our home buyer education series, during this 4-part homeownership workshop, participants will learn everything they need to know about the home buying process, the component of a monthly mortgage payment, which is the PITI or principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, mortgage terminology, and strategies for protecting their new asset, which will be your home. This series meets the counseling requirements for HUD, down payment assistance, and first-time home buyer programs, but you must complete all 4 courses in the series. Next slide, please.
At this time, Morgan, everybody, we're going to take a quick break and answer some questions. We apologize for the technical challenges that we're having, and they are working on it behind the scenes. So I'm going to take this moment to ask some questions. Morgan, you talked about need versus a want. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Define what is a need versus a want.
So a need would be anything that, is necessary for you to basically survive, and the wellness of your survival, in a sense. So having a roof over your head, a car to drive to be able to make money to pay your bills, to take your kids to school. Those are needs, things that help you maintain wellness, financial wellness, and stay out of debt each month. Wants would be considered something that is, an option to have. You can live without it. You won't. It's not a detriment to your daily living.
Okay, so I can do without the red shoes, but I really do need to pay my water bill, right?
Yes.
Need versus want. Is there anyone else who'd like to give some examples of a need versus want, or weigh in on that question? Okay.
So Maria, I would like to.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to emphasize something that Morgan said, which was so helpful, but it just kind of slipped by there. And that's things like Netflix and DoorDash. If you actually sit down and take an inventory of how much you might spend on those things, I talk to my teenager about that all the time, you would be amazed how much you could you can save and cut out. So sometimes it's the little things that add up. So I encourage people to look at that as well.
Thank you, Dana. That is so good. I try to take an inventory of all my programming, everything that I'm paying for, to look at. I take an inventory twice a year, and do a deep dive on, am I spending on Netflix, Amazon, all those things. I take an inventory and make sure it's in line with the budget. So Morgan, talk to me a little bit about the budget and what does a budget look like?
So a budget looks like, basically, it's kind of in relation to a spending plan, but this is where we are taking charge and saying, this is where my money is going. So the budget is saying, this is how much I'm spending towards my rent. This is how much I'm spending towards my car note and gas. This is how much I'm spending on groceries this month. This is where you take charge and say, this is what I'm spending my money on. If I say I'm only giving myself $100 for DoorDash, this is where I'm saying that. This is where I'm saying, okay, if I'm going out with my friends, I can only spend $200 between dinner and going out and extracurricular activities. This is how much I'm spending on shoes this month for me and my kids. This is how much I'm spending on clothes this month for me and my kids. And then at the end of the month, you can kind of see, you'll create a spending plan and see, like, this is where my money has went. Did I adhere to the budget? And you can use that to compare to the budget. Did I adhere to the budget? Did I get over a little bit? And this is not to say, bash yourself for going over or congratulate yourself for staying under. It's about making sure that you just take charge and say, I'm making my finances and viewing my finances a priority in my life, and being able to say, okay, this is where my money is going. This is how I spent my money in the past. If I need to adjust, like, hey, I know that, some weeks when I'm going out of town for work, or when I'm, doing overtime, I tend to, eat out more. So maybe I can allot myself $50 here, but take $50 from my going out time with my friends this month, and then being able to adjust. But just making sure that you're staying on top of looking at your finances on a regular basis is what's important, because then you'll be able to say, like, okay, I'm putting $600 towards my savings for a down payment for a home, because most of the time you need to have at least 3% in the deal. So just being able to take charge, the budget helps you to take charge and tell your money where to go. So you're not being controlled by your money, but instead you're taking control of that.
Wonderful.
I wanted to make a comment too that was really important from both presentations from our partners, is that correcting your credit and fixing your credit and fixing errors is free. It is really important that you work with a HUD-approved counseling agency to repair your credit and help you get you in the right direction. I've seen so many people in the past who go with a legal company or some other credit repair companies that charge them a lot of money, and all they do is just send a bunch of dispute letters. The credit scores go up temporarily, but then as soon as those letters expire, they go right back down again. And so they send new letters, and they're just taking too many people's money and not actually helping them go down the path. So I wanted to bring attention to that. It's important.
Thanks, Dan. That's great wisdom, everyone. I do see a question in the chat. However, we're going to answer that question at the end of our session, because our presenter, our media partner, has corrected the challenge, and we are going to go right in to Mortgage 101. Cameron, take it away.
Actually, it'd be Kevin starting off. So my name is Kevin.
I apologize, Kevin.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, one of the things we're going to talk about today is what to expect from your lender. And you heard Morgan mention the acronym DTI, or debt to income ratio. Well, your debt to income ratio measures how much of your gross income you are using to cover all your debts, which include your mortgage, auto loans, credit cards, student loans, etc. So the items that are found on your credit report, the minimum payments, that's taken into consideration for your debt to income ratio. Now, The ratios themselves may vary depending on the lender, the loan product, and the down payment assistance guideline, but usually they range between 40 to 45%. The biggest misconception is people think that if you make $5,000 a month, you can use that entire $5,000 a month to pay your mortgage or figure out your DTI, excuse me. So for example, if you make $5,000 a month pre-tax, about 40 to 45%, which is about $2,000 to $2,200, $2,250 is what you're using to pay your mortgage, auto loan, credit cards, student loans, etc. So I just want to make sure people understand that, again, your entire income is not used for paying all your bills. Next slide, please. Now, what should you expect from your lender? These are closing expenses to expect. You're going to have tax escrow preparation. Typically, a portion of your property taxes are collected at closing and deposited into an escrow account. You'll be making a monthly payment into an escrow account, including with your monthly payment, and the account will be used to pay future tax bills, okay? Other costs associated with it are your prepaid homeowner's insurance, which is typically 1 year property insurance, which is required to be paid prior to closing. You're going to have processing and underwriting fees. These are charges paid to your lender for processing and underwriting the mortgage. You're going to have title fees. Fees are incurred to adequately ensure no liens or claims exist on the home you intend to purchase. It's another third-party fee that you're paid. Then you're going to have application fee, which is a non-refundable fee covering costs associated with processing your loan application and credit history. We normally say it's cost of doing business. Then you're going to have an appraisal fee, which is another fee that determines the property market value. I don't want you to confuse this with the home inspection. They're totally two different things. The appraisal deals with the value of the home. The property inspections deal with the infrastructure of the home itself. Okay. Then you're going to have earnest money. Now, these are funds paid to the seller once the contract is signed. We typically say those are funds, again, associated with just saying, I'm committed to buying this home that you're going to pay to the seller. Next slide, please. I'm going to introduce my colleague, Cameron Camry, who's going to take over from here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cameron Carey. I am a mortgage loan originator based in Cincinnati. I specialize in first-time home buyers, and I service 8 branches in the Cincinnati area. So if you're from Cincinnati, I probably am at a branch somewhere close to where you live. So I wanted to talk about mortgage programs. The first and most common I wanted to discuss was fixed rate mortgages. The principal and interest are locked in for the term of the loan. So you'll typically see 15, 20, or the most common you will see is a 30-year mortgage term. What that does, you lock in your monthly payment. So over the course, the 30-year is the most common. And the reason that it's probably the most common is because by stretching it out over 30 years, you lower your payment. That's typically the cheapest monthly payment you can get. And the reason that we recommend that for first-time home buyers specifically is because there's no prepayment penalty with Fifth Third. And if something were to go wrong in your life financially, where maybe you get laid off or some life circumstances pop up that affect your income, you still have to come up with your mortgage payment, and you can always pay it off early, but you can't make that payment that you are obligated to less. So a 20 or a 15-year mortgage would have a more expensive monthly payment, and you got to come up with that. But if you have a 30-year payment, you can always pay more, but you can't make it less. So that is the most common. And that is compared to an adjustable rate mortgage, where typically you will have a fixed interest rate early in the term of the mortgage, typically between 1 to 10 years off, and you'll see something like your mortgage term or your interest rate is locked in for maybe 5 years. And then after the first 5 years, the rate changes every 6 months or something along those lines. Typically, that is the type of product and mortgage you would see for someone who does not plan on being in their home for very long. I would generally not recommend it for a first-time home buyer. The fixed rate is probably a better product. Adjustable rate mortgages are an option, but there is some variables involved with adjustable rate mortgages. The next two are government-backed loans. So there's the FHA loan, which is insured by the Federal Housing Administration, or FHA. These are good because they require lower down payments. So you can have a down payment as low as 3.5%. The guidelines for credit are a little bit lower. At Fifth Third, you have to have at least a 600 credit score, but lower credit scores are easier for approvals with FHA loans. You can also have higher debt to income ratios and still receive approvals. And if you filed bankruptcy, you can be approved for an FHA loan quicker than you could a conventional loan after the discharge of a bankruptcy. VA loans, Veterans Affairs, those are for people who've been in the military, and they offer things like oftentimes you can do no down payment. There's no mortgage insurance, which if you have less than 20% down on your mortgage, you will usually have mortgage insurance, which is built into your monthly payment. But with a VA loan, if you're a veteran, there would not be mortgage insurance. And that makes it easier for veterans to purchase homes because there are some better options, and the approval requirements like FHA loans are a little more generous. Next slide, please. The conventional and conforming loans. So these are underwritten to specific guidelines to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. There are a couple products, Home Possible and Home Ready. There are options available to borrowers that don't have as much as 20% for a down payment. You have to have lower debt to income ratios, and typically, at least with Fifth Third, a little bit higher credit than with FHA loans. But if your credit is in a pretty good shape and you can make your debt to income ratio a little bit lower than you could for an approval with an FHA loan, those are very good options. And the Fifth Third Community Mortgage as well. Also for borrowers under 80% of the area median income, lower down payments, 3%, like the loans we previously just discussed. And that also comes with reduced mortgage insurance. And also importantly for first-time home buyers, a $1,500 closing cost credit. And we also offer Ohio Housing Finance Agency loans, or OFA, as you will commonly hear it discussed. We are an approved lender for those loans. And some of those programs offer 2.5% or 5% down payment assistance, and that's based on the sale price to help cover the cost. And we offer that with conventional FHA or VA loans, depending on your qualifications. They can be used as a mortgage tax credit. There's a mortgage tax credit certificate that can be combined with the Fifth Third loan product. So that can reduce the liability on federal taxes. Next slide, please. And just to wrap it up for my part here, this list is not all inclusive. So there are a variety of loan products. There's typically something to work with your situation. We can find what works best for you and match you to that loan product. We also have down payment assistance programs, like the $1,500 closing cost credit I just discussed. We do have down payment assistance available if you meet certain criteria. Typically, that is also under 80% of the area median income, and it might be based on the location of the property. But we have $3,600 in grant money currently available through Fifth Third if you meet certain criteria. And we also have special purpose credit programs that sometimes are a good option, and other promotional programs going on which can help with down payment and closing cost assistance. So it's always good to reach out to a mortgage originator to find out exactly what is available to you as a first-time home buyer, what sort of assistance you can receive, and what the best option for you to fit you into this specific product that meets your needs. And now I would like to introduce my colleague, Alfred Patterson. Next slide, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I do appreciate your time and your patience with this process. As you go along this journey, keep in mind that it's best to plan your work and work your plan. And in doing so, you'll need to establish steps. You'll want to get your finances in order. And in order to do that, you have to be methodical about how you do it. The first thing you want to consider is paying your bills on time. It's one of the best things you can do to ensure that you qualify for a mortgage loan. Now, I know that's easier said than done because sometimes we have to kind of work through a month in order to make sure everything is covered. But that's part of the planning process. You want to make sure that there are no late payments once you've started your mortgage application. You also want to inspect your credit reports. As we learned earlier, you can always access mycreditreport.com to get access to your credit reports, but you want to take a look at them regularly. Now, sometimes you can use apps to do this, like Credit Karma and so forth. Those may not be accurate, but the data that's in those reports is accurate. So you'll know what your credit report consists of. Do not make purchases on credit after submitting your mortgage loan application, as they may impact your debt to income ratio and or your score. You'll also want to save for a down payment. The larger the down payment, the more equity you'll have at closing. And by that, there's always, generally there are some unexpected expenses with buying a home. Remember, after your down payment, you still have to cover moving expenses. Sometimes there's fees for changing your utilities. So you want to make sure you have adequate funds on hand to cover all of those expenses. Gather your tax returns. Now, seems like an easy task, but once you file your taxes, who knows where your tax returns go? So you'll want to get ahead of it, gather your tax returns. Typically, last 2 years W-2 forms, 9 forms, and for self-employed borrowers, the complete federal tax returns rather. Collect your bank statements. Prepare to show good account management. The last 2 monthly statements include checking, savings, investment, IRAs, 401k accounts. Take a homebuyer education course. That's very important. Get a better understanding of budgeting, credit, and the home buying process from a certified nonprofit homebuyer counseling organization. That's a good step. Next slide, please. Step 2, determine how much house you can afford. Keep in mind, how much house you qualify for may not necessarily reflect how much house you can afford, meaning you may qualify for a $200,000 home. That's just numbers. You may not be comfortable with the payment of a $200,000 home. So you have to kind of figure out what you want versus what you qualify for. A pre-approval is based on the estimated payment and the guidelines for the specific loan product. It should never be used to determine what your family can afford. Remember, that's your call. Talk with a Fifth Third mortgage loan originator and how a specific home fits into your budget before going into a contract to purchase with the seller. One of our housing counselor partners can also help you determine what your budget should look like based on your specific needs. And many factors in your life you need to consider may not be represented in your debt to income ratio. Things like food, insurance, medical expenses, childcare, vacations, etc. That's why a budget is extremely important. And you do want to pay attention to your budget because you're going to have to live with it. Next slide, please. Step 3, get pre-approved and start your mortgage process with Fifth Third. Of course, your mortgage loan originator will be able to walk you through every step of the process. The following information will be needed during the mortgage process: a sales contract, if you already have an accepted offer on a property, Social Security numbers for all applicants, driver's license or state IDs for all applicants, employment information, including income covering the last 2 years, copy of the most recent 2 years W-2 forms or complete federal tax returns if you're self-employed, copy of the most recent 2 pay stubs, complete information on all open debts, account numbers, balances, statements, and documentation of any other obligations you might have, like child support or alimony. Complete information on assets, account numbers, balances, statements, copy of bank account asset statements covering the most recent 2 months. Next slide, please. Call your movers, pick up your keys and get to your new home. Next slide, please. Now I want to introduce a colleague. Angie Preston will take it on here.
Thank you so much, Alfred. My name is Angie Preston. I have been with Fifth Third Bank for almost 13 years, and I serve the Central Ohio area and Fayette County area. And my specialty is first-time home buyers, finding those solutions for down payment assistance and so forth. Next slide, please. So I want to talk to you about down payment assistance. So we offer a $3,600 forgivable grant to all of our borrowers who qualify. So this is eligible in 11 states. And for conventional loans, it can provide down payment assistance up to $3,600. For FHA loans, it provides closing cost assistance for up to $3,600. With FHA, you would have to come up with your down payment on your own. It could be a gift from a family member, or it could be a grant from an uninterested third party. So there's still plenty of options for FHA, and we can also cover $3,600 of your closing costs. And this can also be combined with other programs as well. Next slide, please. So how do we determine what properties are eligible? Whenever I send a pre-approval, I always like to give website link FFIEC. Okay, this link allows you to plug in a property address, and it will tell you if it's in a low or moderate, middle, or upper census tract. Next slide, please. So in the example that we're going to show you here, this borrower is interested in 7500 Vine Street. As you can see, the tract level is low, and the income is showing 97,400. So to see if you qualify for this property, if you qualify for down payment assistance, you would need to multiply 97,400 by 0.8. So basically, you need to have 80% of the median annual income to qualify for this loan. So 77,920 is what you would need to be at or under in order to qualify for down payment assistance. You also need to be, the property also needs to be in a low or moderate census tract. So this is a great tool that we use that I share with all my borrowers. If you're interested in a property, if you're looking on Zillow, if you're setting up a showing, you're able to go beforehand to look to see if your property that you're interested in qualifies. So now I would like to pass it off to Monique Winston, President of Ohio Realist Foundation.
Thank you very much. And we are entering the home stretch, everyone. So stretch your arms and let's bring it on home around third base. So as she mentioned, my name is Monique Winston, and I am the president of the Ohio Realtist Association. Next screen, please. So today, as we bring it home, we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about working with your real estate professional, your wish list, starting to look, writing that offer, how you form a great offer, the closing process, and round it out with fair housing. So next screen, please. As she mentioned, my name is Monique Winston, and I am the president of the Ohio Realtist Association. And just for a really quick shameless plug, we are part of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. We are 75 years old, and we are actually the oldest real estate trade association and the largest predominantly Black real estate trade association. So we have a very rich history, not only nationally, but we've been around in Ohio since 1952. Next slide, please. So one of the things I want to stress, and this is as it relates to looking for a real estate agent to help you during this process, is how critical it is that you actually utilize a real estate agent. I know we have so much technology out there and everyone wants to do things their own, but we are in a market in a time where you really need the benefit and the expertise of a real estate professional, not just to help you find the house, but to help you put in the right offer and to get your offer accepted during this very, very competitive market. So where do you go? Always, right? Referrals. People will share their experiences with you. So ask your friends and ask your family members who have gone through the process who they utilize. Referrals are always a great way because, like I said, people will share the good, and you all know they'll share the bad, and you want to know. You'll attend great pre-purchase workshops like this one. Look at all of the great contacts that you are forming here today across the industry. Take snapshots, take pictures of people's information. You can contact your local realtist or realtor association. Again, if they are a member, shameless plug, organization. And I will tell you that around the state of Ohio, we have you covered. We have 7 amazing local boards. I happen to be from the Greater Cleveland Realtors Association. However, we have Cincinnati, we have Dayton, we have Toledo, we have Akron, we have Youngstown. We have you covered across the state. We are privileged in Ohio to have 7 local boards that you can rely on. And then, of course, if you're riding around, you will often see signage in front of the house that will often list agents who are working with that property. So again, a word to the wise is sufficient therein. Make sure you utilize a real estate professional. Next slide, please. And it's important to understand the role of an agent, okay? There's a listing agent who has a contract with the seller, and there is a buyer's agent who will represent you as the home buyer. Now, they actually enter a legally binding contract where they are responsible and have a fiduciary or ethical responsibility to assist you. The listing agent represents the seller, and they not only advertise that property, but they represent the seller once the actual offer is made. You will have times where you may have the same agent representing both parties. And I always say, understand your situation so that you know if the individual you're representing you, or if they're also representing the seller, so that you can make an informed decision that is your decision of how to proceed. A knowledgeable buyer is a better buyer. And that's why we're here with you today. Next slide. So, okay, so just some of the disclosures that will accompany the offer that you are putting in: your residential property disclosure, your lead-based paint, your pre-approval letter, your earnest money check or money order, which Kevin talked to you about. Again, when you look at these disclosures, we don't want you to focus on having to be an expert in all of these areas, but that informed realtors agent that you're going to select, guess what? They will be, and they'll help you walk you through understanding what that lead paint disclosure means and what that pre-approval letter means. So again, an informed buyer, you're going to hear me say that over and over again. I want you to be a knowledgeable, informed buyer and have your team assembled. Next slide, please. So there are final steps in the process, or I will say steps that accompany the process. So when, and I think we had another speaker also reference the appraisal and the title work. Again, you have a team that comes together for this process. The first thing that you'll notice on there says home inspection. And Kevin, again, he pointed out the difference between an appraisal and a home inspection. During this very competitive market, some of the things that people have done in order to make their offer acceptable to the seller is that a home inspection. Again, that is your decision with respect to what you negotiate and what your real estate agent helps you come up with. But I will tell you, even if you are making concessions regarding the home inspection, you're not going to hold the seller responsible for them. Get a home inspection. The reason I say that is because you need to know what you're walking into. Agree and tell the seller, you know what? I can handle that. You cannot handle what you don't know. So even if it's for your benefit, get a home inspection. It can still be used to negotiate, but again, I'm using that buzzword, an informed and knowledgeable buyer. Again, you're going to get an appraisal because not only is that important for you to know home buyer, your home value, but guess what? That lender, when Fifth Third cuts you a check, they also want to know that they're making their loan based upon an accurate appraisal. And I'm a title person, so I always tell people that is an important process because it not only discovers liens and claims and things associated with the property, it's what it so it makes sure that the person that you're buying from actually owns the property. I could tell you horror stories about that, which I won't. But again, these are very important aspects of the process. Next slide, please. So these are just a list of sample documents, sample closing documents. When you go to close your transaction, and that's the exciting part because you are executing all of these documents and moving one step further to the home ownership. This list is not even a full list, you all. This is just a sample of some of the many documents that you will sign. But if you notice in the bottom, I have pointed out something that is very important, and other title people and attorneys like myself, sometimes they actually hate when I do this because they are looking at it as a time constraint. But I'm telling you, if you are not sure about what you are signing, ask. Don't feel intimidated. Don't feel pressed for time. And again, my colleagues would be like, we don't want to be there all day. Listen, your name is on the dotted line. You have to understand what you're signing. And again, I can tell you horror stories, but there was a lot that happened during 2008 when people didn't know what they were signing. So please, if you don't understand, make sure it is properly explained to you. Next slide. And last but not least, always keep in mind that we have fair housing practices and laws in this country. Our organization was very vital and instrumental in establishing many of those laws. So there are certain things that are prohibited. So again, work with your team, work with your real estate agent, work with your lender, but make sure that you understand that it is illegal to discriminate in housing sales, rentals, and financing based upon a client's race, color, religion, national origin, sex, disability, or familiar status. Those things are not allowed. So if it's someone steering you to live in a specific area, if it's someone refusing to show you a certain area, now that doesn't mean refusing to show you $1 million house when that's not your price bucket, but refusing to show you certain areas. Again, we want them to be diligent and work with you to keep you within your means, but there are certain things that you are entitled to and that certain practices that are prohibited that we want you to actually keep in mind. So Myra, my friend, I'll turn it back over to you so that they can have any questions.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. You were amazing. All the information was rich. However, our viewers may have some additional questions. I've provided a few in the chat, and Dana is going to ask you those questions. John is going to read any questions from Facebook. But I want to tell you, first and foremost, you are not alone. You have heard from industry experts all over the state of Ohio, and this is your time. Take this opportunity, as Sheldon reminded you, to ask any questions. There are no silly questions. Every one of us who owns a home on this line, we've been through this process. We know how daunting it can seem, but I'll tell you, is a lot easier than it used to be because of technology. So don't be afraid and don't think that you can't do it. I've seen people who said I couldn't close on a house in 30 to 40 days. If you want it, go for it. Our first question, Dana.
Thank you so much, Maria. So our first question is, and I believe Morgan touched on this, how do you view your credit report monthly for free? Morgan, can you give us some thoughts on that?
You can view your monthly credit report for free. I know you can get it from annualcreditreport.com, freeannualcreditreport.com, but it won't tell you the score, but it will show you all the derogatory information on all three accounts. So your TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. It will show you all three. Any derogatory information in the accounts that you currently have opened, your address, all your personal identifying information, where you worked at previously, your email. That's where you can obtain your free annual credit report. And that's on a yearly basis. But if you speak with a housing counselor, like a few of us on the phone, on this line today, we'll be able to obtain your credit report with the scores through our programs that we have access to, and it won't be a hard inquiry on your report.
Monique, I think Monique is going to weigh in on that as well. Were you going to weigh in?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, because especially with so many technological advances and people using everything under the sun, I know a lot of people use things like Credit Karma and things like that. And I just always want to sort of caution people that if you're using those, don't so much rely on the score, because there's a difference between those and the FICO scores and the scores that are used for home buying purchases. But if you're using them just to see what credit lines are showing for informational purposes about the account, maybe if someone did an inquiry, that's one thing. But I really caution people not to rely on that for purposes of getting a score for home buying purposes. But for informational purposes, sure, you can see if someone has inquired and things like that. So we're in this day and age, so I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. That's a really great report. There are so many tools out there, and tools are great as long as you know how to use them. So there's another question. What is an escrow account, and are down payment program dollars combinable? So I know those are kind of two different things. Monique, you talked about an escrow account, or I believe it was our mortgage folks. So if maybe Dan or Kevin, can you kind of weigh in on the escrow account and whether or not you can combine down payment programs?
I'd be happy to. So with an escrow account, what we're doing is we're collecting 1/12 of your taxes and 1/12 of your insurance bills every month, so that when those bills come due, we'll be able to pay them for you. That creates an easier budget for you. It's free. There's no charge for that. But it also protects the lender as well, because if we have a house as collateral that the taxes aren't paid and it gets taken by the county, then we don't have a good piece of collateral anymore. If we have a house that is uninsured that has issues and burns down, then we would have issues as well. So an escrow account can be waived if you put down more than 20%. But I don't necessarily recommend it. You're not going to make a lot of money having that money in your own savings accounts versus having it just included in your mortgage for easier budgeting. And then when it comes to down payment assistance, our down payment assistance program can stack with a lot of different things we've got available. And we also have a tool called the down payment resource, or down payment assistance resource. And so we can actually put in addresses and put in locations and find out all of the programs that are out there on this database that are approved by Fifth Third and also available for that particular home, so that we can stack it. We can use our down payment assistance program and stack it with a local program from the city or from an organization like CHN. We can stack those together in order to create a much larger down payment and cover some of the closing costs. So that's something that's definitely important to keep in mind, that you got to look for those resources, and an expert here at the bank can help you do that to make sure you take advantage of everything that is available to you.
Thank you so much. I know we do have, Mari, I'm going to toss it to you for Facebook questions. I know we do have a question in the chat about whether or not the recording will be sent to your email or the actual PowerPoint. So our partners are putting this on Facebook Live, and then there will be a recording available of it. So at the end, we'll make sure we share that information so you can see how to access it and play it back at your own speed and stop it and take some notes if you weren't able to do so. So Maria, passing it to you for some Facebook questions.
Site. So we will not be sending them out to everyone individually, but we will provide it on Facebook Live on our partners page, as well as our partner, the Cincinnati Herald's YouTube site. So you can go right through it. John, are there any questions on Facebook?
Yeah, we do have one question on Facebook. And your mortgage.
I apologize, we couldn't hear you. You cut out for a second. So
Okay.
read the question again.
Yeah, the question is, should I get a 15 or 30-year mortgage?
I can take that. Yep, I can take that question. Just as Cameron had said earlier in the presentation, it really depends on your specific situation when we advise what kind of terms are to be used. So a 30-year mortgage, as he said, a fixed rate mortgage for 30 years is going to have a very, very much lower predictable payment. So if you ever do run into trouble, you can fall back to that payment. I have had so many of my customers in the past pay their 30-year loans off in 15 years. But if something happens, if you're disabled, or if you were to be on short-term disability even and get 60% of your pay or something like that, you're able to fall back to that 30-year mortgage payment and still keep your credit safe and still keep your avoid foreclosure or any collection actions or fees. You'll be able to do that. So I always encourage people to consider a 30-year term on a fixed rate mortgage. So just was mentioned as well, on an adjustable rate mortgage, things like that, those are great for people who are downsizing and they're only going to own the home for a little while, or they're only going to have the loan until they sell their old house, because you can have some cheaper options there. But the safest and in my opinion, best for most first-time home buyers is a 30-year fixed mortgage.
Thanks, Dan.
Hey, Mara,
quick
we
question.
another question.
Okay.
How far out in advance do I need to plan on buying a home?
I typically recommend 6 months before you're ready to buy, to start taking the classes, start looking at your credit report, meet with a mortgage loan originator, like someone on my team. Sometimes a pre-approval is like a wellness check or annual physical with your doctor. You don't know exactly what's going on. You want to find out and build a plan. You may not be ready. You may need to pay some debts down. You may need to improve your credit report. You may need to save a little bit of money, but a mortgage professional or a housing counselor can help you figure out what that looks like, and then what your particular journey looks like. If you have identity theft, if you have things unexpected on your credit report, medical collections that don't even belong to you because they're another person's, but they got the same name and a similar address, or something like that happens a lot. So if you take care of that early, then it won't be a huge disruption during the process, because once you're under contract to buy a house, time is of the essence, and you have to close on time. So if you find out that you have identity theft or at the last minute, you may miss out on that house that you've already fallen in love with. So it's important to start at the beginning and get ready ahead of time, that when you get to the time to buy, everything's in place.
Thank you, Dan.
And
Any other
Mara,
questions there?
we have one more Facebook question. Someone
Super.
asked, how do I figure out?
We're missing you, John. You're
Okay.
cutting out.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. One person on Facebook asked, how can they figure out if a neighborhood fits them economically, environmentally, and whether the school system is good enough?
Great questions. And I'm going to start with that. Get with one of the professionals and experts on this call. School districts, your realtor can be a great resource for that. Many of our mortgage loan officers can be great resources for that. And of course, our housing counselors, they can tell you where to find this information, because those are wise questions. You want to know the big picture about what's going on with the property that you are going to buy. And so getting with an expert versus trying to dig in by yourself without guidance could be detrimental, because you may not go to the right space to get the most recent information and up-to-date information. Are there any other people that want to weigh in on this question?
Sure, I'll weigh in. On the financial side, it's really important to work with your loan officer to get the payment and figure out, in that area, what do the taxes look like? What are the financial implications to purchasing that home? And then on the other side, the realtist can help you determine the neighborhood, the crime rates, the population, what it looks like, the schools, all those things. It's really important too. Something I learned, just a personal tidbit, is drive by the house at different times of day as you're at the beginning of the process, because the neighborhood may be different at night than it is during the day. I also, my personal experience is that I bought a house directly between the nursing home and the fire station. So every time an ambulance goes to the nursing home, I hear it at night. So, you want to think about those kind of things in the area and how things like that will affect you.
And just
Thanks,
to
Dan.
back on what Dan said, just to keep in mind that your real estate agent works for you and they have that fiduciary responsibility. I think sometimes that gets lost, like you are hiring them to do these things for you.
Absolutely. Thanks for
Correct.
reminding us, Monique. Dana, any other questions on the Zoom?
Yes, so we have someone who asked, are there any programs with fixed lower interest rates for buying in LMI areas similar to NACA?
I could take that. There's a lot of different programs, and there's a lot of assistance programs as well that are going to be targeted to certain specific areas. In 3 of our cities in Ohio, we have specific targeted neighborhoods in Cincinnati, Cleveland, and in also Columbus that we have special programs and special purpose credit programs that are focused on helping develop those neighborhoods. And then certain grants are for just certain neighborhoods as well. So that's something to think about and also to discuss with your real estate agent and also your lender so that they can help you follow all the programs that apply for you in that area that you're looking to purchase.
And in the
Thank you,
city
Dana.
of Dayton, I was just told, thank you, Dana. In the city of Dayton, I was just told that Southwest Dayton and Northwest Dayton have a program that will give you $10,000 if you
Yep.
buy in any of those census tracts that can be added on to some other down payment assistance. And what that really says is, y'all, that you might be able to come to the closing table with no money down. So you've got to work with your loan officers, got to work with your housing counselors to know where those dollars are.
And sometimes when
Amazing.
you have extra money in the transaction, you can use points to buy down the rate to a lower rate. Points are able to be used there's an additional cost for a lower rate for the rest of the term. So that's something, if you have a little bit of your own money, down payment assistance, closing cost coverage, you can buy points to have that fixed rate be lower for the whole term based on those monies that you have. So that's something that's again why you want to work with professionals to help you structure the whole thing, because they can find you all the different ways to do it. I did loans when I was a loan officer with 5 different programs involved, and it was complicated, but it gave a huge down payment to the person that it wasn't even their money, and made the house affordable for them to have that extra down payment to lower the payments for them.
Thank you. So I think we have one final question here in the chat that is really important as we're talking about getting people ready and doing what you have to do. The question is, does a pre-approval credit check count as a soft or hard inquiry? So I think that's really important for people to know.
It does. So whenever you are approaching a lender about lending,
which one, the soft or the, you says it
it's
does.
going to be
Is
it's going to be a
soft or
hard
hard?
inquiry. Sorry. Anytime that you approach a lender for lending, it's going to be a hard inquiry. But something to note is that inquiries are not going to destroy your score. That, if you have excessive inquiries, it can affect your score. But if you go to a few different banks within a short time period, I think 2 of the bureaus, it's a month, and one of them is 2 weeks. If you go in between that and you shop around a little bit, it's going to count as one inquiry in the scoring system. Something that's a big misunderstanding, and people have anecdotal proof that their score went down significantly because of their inquiries. But I've looked at those credit reports before, and usually that there are other factors. They have a higher balance on their credit card because something reported in the 3 days difference of when it was pulled the first time to the second time. So while you'd never want to have your credit pulled excessively, it's not as scary and horrible as most people will lead you to believe.
To piggyback on that, part of the reason that you are attending pre-purchase seminars such as this is so that you get your sort of ducks in a row before you approach Fifth Third or Yeah, Fifth Third, no other lender today, right? So before you approach Fifth Third, is because you'll have access to home buyer counselors and home buying agencies that can also do a soft pull for you so that you can get that information before you even approach the lender, so that then you're not actually going into it blindly. So go to some of the HUD approved counseling agencies that can actually do a soft pull before you approach the lender. Know who you are before they know who you are.
Absolutely. It's important for the lender to help you shape the transaction that's going to fit for you. But the housing counseling agencies, they partner with banks like Fifth Third and other organizations. They know generally what your qualifications need to be, what range they need to be in to succeed. So they'll put you in the right course. And then when you speak with a loan originator, they can kind of fine tune to specific properties, to specific loan programs, to specific down payment assistance programs and other options that you have available to you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any last questions? We're at 1:27. We want to honor your time. Dana or John?
No.
Okay. Well, we, next slide, please. We want to thank our partner organizations, the Cincinnati Herald, who has been a faithful partner since the inception. As a matter of fact, the moniker Owning It came from them. So thank you to the Cincinnati Herald, our media partner, for NARAB, who is a national organization where most of our Ohio realtors, realtists are a member of. We want to thank the Ohio Realtors Association, who has this network of 7 organizations across the state, and you can join in with any of those realtors to help you on your home buying journey. Working in Neighborhoods, Homeport, CHN, the Homeownership Center of Greater Cincinnati, and the Homeownership Center of Greater Dayton, as well as NeighborWorks in Toledo, are all home buying organizations that you can tap into. Thank you, thank you, thank you, as well as the African American Chamber. Thank you so much to our partners as always. Next slide, please. And so your next steps. Let's talk about how you connect with the folks on this presentation. Next slide. And so, as I stated, these home buyer counseling and housing counselors have an opportunity to help you in this journey. You are not alone. And so you heard from Tammy Edwards, who was from Working in Neighborhoods. She's located in Cincinnati. You see her email and phone number there. Morgan was from Cleveland. Netta, who couldn't join us, as well, is from Columbus, but she is available at any time. Monique did a wonderful job as the president of Ohio Realtors Association. Also, Julie, who is the executive director at the Homeownership Center of Greater Dayton. Rob is over at NeighborWorks in Toledo. And finally, Rick Williams is executive director there at the Homeownership Center of Greater Cincinnati. And so please take a picture of this, call or email these home buyer counselors. They are connected to us. Let them know that you were on the Owning It workshop and that you want to be able to start your journey or join, you want them to join you in your journey on home ownership. Next slide, please. And then we have our loan officers. We had some terrific insights from our loan officers on the presentation. Here is a list of our loan officers who can help you throughout the state of Ohio. As you can see, their location is listed. If you're in any of those locations, reach out to that loan officer. Please take the time to really listen to them. So take a picture. They have tremendous experience, many of them more than 15 years of experience. I'd say on that list, there might be 400 or 500 years of experience, because these are seasoned loan officers. They know what they're talking about. Their motto, as Dan told you, is not if, but when, and they will lean in, even if there's a rejection or if they said no at first. Our loan officers won't leave you. They will help you get to the yes. And that's the difference. They may refer you to a home buyer counselor, or they may refer you to the realtor. What you want to do is have a loan officer and a home buyer counselor on your team, as well as a realtor. And then finally, next slide, please. You have the leaders who manage the community impact in the region, in the state of Ohio, and we're also available for you too. So the community impact officers, as well as the mortgage leaders in the state of Ohio, are on this list. So if you miss getting in contact with any of those previous ones, any one of us on that list right here, and I'm on that list, Dana's on that list, Sheldon is on that list, Royce is on that list, Dan is on that list. You can reach out to any of us, and we can help you get where you need to be in order to move forward in your home buying journey. Next slide, please. And the moment we have been waiting for, I got a quick drum roll. The moment we've been waiting for, the winner for the Zoom $25 gift card is Hourglass. Hourglass, we thank you for joining us. We're going to need your information. So we don't know. Congratulations. Thank you for being so engaged and leaning in. But we want to thank all of you. But we're going to need your information. So if you can put your email inside of the chat, we'll have a record of it, and I will reach out to you and get your address so that we can send you your $25 gift card. It's a MasterCard, so you can use it anywhere. And John, who is the winner on Facebook?
Okay, Myra, we have Marilyn Southall from Facebook.
Wonderful, wonderful. Marilyn, congratulations.
And we'll give her the contact information and everything.
Okay, wonderful. So is Hourglass, is that yours? What it says, Philip? I want to make sure we get the right one. Is that yours?
Adrian.Jackson 47.
Oh, I see it. I see it now. I'll take a picture of it right now. So thank you, everyone, so much. We hope that you have enjoyed this workshop. We will continue to be available to you, as we stated. Make sure you don't stop asking questions. There's no silly questions. We are here for you on the long run, for the long haul, and look forward to coming to your housewarming in our location. So I'm in Dayton, Dana's in Cincinnati, Sheldon's in Columbus. We're all over the state. So we want you to really find a way and find your heart's desire to build wealth for your families through home ownership. We look forward to the next time. Remember that it'll be on YouTube, on the Cincinnati Herald YouTube, if you want to go back through it. And also our partners will likely put it on their websites as well. Thank you so much. Happy Father's Day, happy Juneteenth, and happy house hunting.
Hey, Mara, I have one quick thing to add about about this segment.
Okay,
so the Cincinnati Herald's YouTube page is called the Herald TV, and this video should be on our website and on the Herald TV sometime early next week. I just wanted to add that in there real quick.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much for helping us work through even some tech challenges. That is the blessing of having a great team. Well, we are able to pivot and be agile and nimble, and we're so grateful that you joined us. Thanks again. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.